AEW has made massive announcements today at the media scrum. There's a couple of big ones you guys don't want to miss. Plus, we're going to talk a little bit about that backstage fight between Jack Perry and CM Punk, and it's all coming up right here on the Ango Show. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Ango. Big news in today's video. And first, I want to start off talking about AEW's streaming deal. For those who don't know, this is a very big deal because there has been talks about this for a while now. There's been talks about Warner Bros. Discovery trying to figure out a way to distribute their pay-per-views a little bit better with AEW. And Tony Khan did confirm that they are in talks with Warner Bros. Discovery. Obviously, Tony Khan doing All In this week. And then next week, there's going to be All Out, introduction of new pay-per-views and things like that. It's going to be pretty costly to fans. And we've talked a while, really since day one, about AEW potentially being on a streaming platform with Warner Bros. Now that Warner Bros. And Discovery have merged, I do fully expect them to be added to HBO Max. Now, we'll see what they do. Maybe AEW does AEW Plus. Maybe AEW Plus is part of Warner Bros. Discovery Max. But realistically, I think the idea here is that if AEW is going to do some sort of streaming deal, that's what they're going to need to do to be uber competitive, right? With AEW having Collision, Rampage, Dynamite, and all of these shows, and Battle of the Belts, and now obviously they're building their tape library 5 years into the business, having one central hub where you can access all that content, it's a relatively big deal. And you got to keep in mind, too, with AEW charging $50-$60 for a pay-per-view, it becomes costly to be a fan. And so far, they've been able to manage with the way that they've done it. Obviously, having a hardcore audience, that definitely helps them. But long term, it does make more sense for them to go to that streaming route. And I think that would be the right move because we do know AEW made a major announcement today, and that is actually that All In will, in fact, be happening next year. And Tony Khan did, in fact, confirm at the media scrum today that they are going to be keeping tradition. So next year, August 25th, AEW will have All In at Wembley Stadium. And then a week later, they will have AEW All Out, just like how it is this year. That's a very questionable choice, obviously. A lot of people are very, curious as to whether or not that actually will make sense. And especially in terms of like pay-per-view build and stuff like that, I think it kind of becomes a challenge for them. Hopefully next year, that is something that they're a little bit more conscious of. Not just 2-3 weeks before the pay-per-views, but hopefully a couple months they're starting to build some stuff there. Because I think if AEW goes the streaming route with pay-per-views and then you're offering back-to-back pay-per-views like that, I think you're going to actually have a lot more interest, right? If you combine the streaming aspect of it, a monthly cost, I think that would be a lot more appropriate than asking people to pay $50-$60 per pay-per-view and then doing one 2 weeks in a row. So with AEW and Warner Bros. Discovery building that relationship, building this library, building pay-per-views, having a tradition is actually a good thing, in my opinion. I think it's a really good thing for AEW to go into it with the mentality that, hey, every year at Wembley Stadium, you're going to get All In. And then every time that you want to watch All Out, it's going to be taking place in Chicago. And then, this event is here. And I think that's one of the good things about AEW having tradition, but also at the same time, too, as the economy worsens, for some, it could just be more challenging for people to get their hands on the product. It's a very big ask to have somebody buy 2 pay-per-views 2 weeks in a row. Keep in mind, AEW is not only competing with WWE, but they're also competing with college football, and they're competing with, the UFC and boxing and all of these other different sporting events. It's a very big challenge for a consumer to be able to spend money for all of these different events, all of these different pay-per-views. With AEW having All In next year, I would assume more than likely by that point in time, AEW would have a pay-per-view distribution deal that is different from what they are currently doing. And I find that to be more appropriate for AEW to be on the Max application, where it's $20 a month. That's the highest package that Max currently offers. But you pay $20 a month, you get all of HBO Max, and then you essentially get the AEW content as well. And I think that could be a really good thing. Or I could see Warner Bros. Discovery potentially doing something completely different, where you would just be able to stream pay-per-views for a monthly charge using Bleacher Report technology. And then from there, AEW has their own library on there. And then I would expect All In 2 or 3, technically. All In 3 would be on that service. And I could see this all being finalized by this time next year. I think that could be a good move for AEW. I feel like it's definitely going to help visibility. And also at the same time, too, there's less damage that is done if AEW does do Wembley Stadium 1 week prior to All Out. The biggest reason why people don't mind paying $5-10 a month for Peacock is because you get all the movies and then you get WWE pay-per-view events. So if WWE did the same thing, people would be more understanding and they would accept it a lot more than AEW, whereas you're charging a premium fee for both events. But that does actually bring us to our next topic, guys. I want to talk to you a little bit about Jack Perry and CM Punk. If you guys watch my AEW All In live review, we talked a little bit about this, but this is some absolutely insane stuff. Just minutes before CM Punk opened up All In against Samoa Joe, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select had reported that there was a physical altercation between both Jack Perry and CM Punk right before Punk went out to the ring, right before he went out to the curtain. Keep in mind, during Jack Perry versus Hook, there was a little moment where Jack Perry was tapping on the limousine glass. And when he did that, he pulled up to the camera, faced it, and said, "Now cry me a river." And obviously, that was a shot at CM Punk. There's been a lot of rumblings about CM Punk looking out for Jack Perry's safety in the past, regards to certain spots. Now there's more developing, interesting things coming out about this. So Fightful Select had reported a variety of stuff. PW Insider also added in that one version of the story is that CM Punk punched Jack Perry, and then there's another version of the story that there was no punch thrown, but Jack Perry was grabbed and choked by CM Punk. Some are adamant that there was no punch, while others are saying there was a punch thrown. It was later reported that the prevailing story backstage is that it was Perry who confronted Punk, and that led to both men shoving each other, and more people have confirmed that Perry was in fact choked by Punk. So this is the latest report that's come out. All of these things allegedly happening. Obviously, it's not a good thing for AEW in its biggest pay-per-view of the year, arguably the biggest wrestling event, right? It's like this is one of those things where they don't need that type of press. They don't need these types of things happening. I said it on my live show. There shouldn't be people picking sides. We don't know. There's he say, she say. There's two variations of the story. The truth is more likely in the middle. But obviously for Jack Perry, he's a heel character. I didn't really feel like that moment in the match was a bad thing. I felt like that right there was what you would expect from a heel character. But of course, with AEW and pro wrestling, you try to blur the lines a little bit. I would have never guessed that it could amount to anything other than that. So with that being said, we'll see what happens. Tony Khan did in fact confirm at the press conference today that there was an incident. He didn't comment on it. He didn't talk about it anything further, but he did say that it is being under investigation. So will this lead to a suspension? Will this lead to anybody getting fired? Whatever it may be, we'll find out relatively soon. And if you guys are subscribed to this channel, I'll keep you updated. Tony Khan did reveal a massive announcement. AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling will, in fact, be doing a new pay-per-view starting October 1st. And this one, guys, is called Wrestle Dream. We knew about Wrestle Dream being trademarked before. We didn't know what it was going to be, but now it was announced that on the anniversary of Antonio Inoki's passing, AEW will, in fact, be doing a collaboration show with New Japan Pro Wrestling. And this is actually pretty exciting because it's going to have a relatively big presence from New Japan. Obviously, AEW has a stacked roster. This would be the 7th pay-per-view of the year for AEW. More pay-per-views, right? We talked about it earlier in this video about AEW potentially doing a streaming deal. We're talking about them doing Wembley next year. You have Forbidden Door. You have Wrestle Dream. Now you're asking quite a bit from your audience. That's why it makes a lot more sense to go the streaming route. And I think AEW is kind of testing the waters. And I think we're just slowly getting there. But I think this is a good thing. I think New Japan and AEW coming together is good. I would really, really love to see them just, continuously build storylines. I thought All In was a very good job of the little tidbits and everything. If you watch my live review, you know what I'm talking about. But storylines do matter. There's a reason why Adam Cole and MJF got this massive reaction. There's a reason why all of these fans were going crazy, and that's because AEW left a lot for people to desire and want. And I think if AEW can do this and consistently do this, it might be a little bit more like WWE, but at the end of the day, it's resulting in great reaction from fans. And if you're trying to sell pay-per-views, if you're trying to get people on a streaming service eventually, you're trying to do these big shows with New Japan Pro Wrestling, that is massive. So Wrestle Dream is happening. It's happening in Seattle, October 1st. Hopefully all goes well. Can't wait to see what comes out of this. But with that being said, guys, I appreciate you for watching The Angle Show, and I'll see you next time.